This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
It's going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
All right, everybody, welcome to the current state of WWE. It's Monday. It's October 2nd, 2023. We've got a couple of hot topics to talk about right now. One that I don't think a lot of us saw coming or didn't expect to happen. But another is something that WWE is seemingly speeding up in LA Knight versus Roman Reigns. But Anthony, I mean, I got to start with the topic you and I were talking about a little bit earlier offline, and that is Edge and his return, or rather debut, in AEW, siding against Christian and his faction, where you thought he was going to concerto Sting, and he turns on the faction and ends up laying everybody out. Crowd pops. But Edge is now officially All Elite. What do you think?
Well, I'm not going to pretend like I watched it because I didn't. So just to confirm, he's going against Christian? Is that it?
Yep.
So, I mean, clearly Edge has some things that he still wants to get done before he calls it a career. And as he alluded to in his Instagram post, he felt like he outgrew WWE and WWE didn't have much left for him. And I can respect that. And given everything that Edge has gone through in his career with the premature injury and having to wait, 8 or 9 years to return to the ring in January of 2020, you know, it is very much of a unique situation. This isn't like a typical wrestler overstaying his or her welcome to just because they can't let go. Like, let's say we saw with a Goldberg recently, or even The Undertaker to an extent, or Ric Flair. Obviously, Edge is trying to make up for lost time, and lost time in his prime years in a lot of ways. But having said that, for some reason, this really didn't sit right with me. And it's bizarre because I've never really cared about anyone jumping to AEW in the past, whether that had been Dean Ambrose or whether that had been Daniel Bryan or even Christian, the Hardy Boys, Jericho, what have you. But for Edge, and you texted me something today that it feels beneath him, and it kind of just made me think, like, dude, like, really? Like, AEW? And this isn't me being like a WWE mark or like trying to grandstand or like think of AEW as like a lesser promotion. Because look, it's a very niche promotion. It's very indie based. I think it's like targeted for the hardcore fans, which is fine. It's not my cup of tea. It's not my preferred wrestling style, but that doesn't mean that it's bad. It's just, to each his own. But there is a part of AEW that has quickly become like a little sandbox for wrestlers who are over the hill to go over there and just kind of fantasy book themselves. Because we have heard that, Tony Khan is very loose and very, I guess, willing to bend to specific wrestlers' creative wants and let them do whatever or let them do more of what they would have wanted to do as opposed to, let's say, WWE. And to me, this just feels like Edge going there to kind of have one last kick at the can of relevance or main event, and obviously go to, work with his real life best friend who he's known since childhood. So I feel weird saying this, but it's almost like I think less of Edge now that he's decided to make this shift and quite possibly end his wrestling career in AEW.
I have to say, and I'll be the first to admit, I was wrong about Edge going to AEW. I thought there was no chance he would do it. I know that Christian, one of his real-life best friends, was there, and that surely was a temptation, but I really didn't think he'd do it. I thought WWE and Adam would come to terms and that they would think of a storyline to get to WrestleMania 40, and I don't know how long Edge's contract is with AEW, but my guess is that it's not that short of a contract where he could participate in WrestleMania 40. I mean, at this point, I would imagine that he's probably ruled out of WrestleMania 40, and it's very possible that he does end his career in AEW. And I do believe that it is beneath Edge's career. I still believe that. I still believe that it is beneath him to go to AEW versus WWE from the perspective of WWE is the mainstay organization. They've been doing this for decades. AEW is a baby organization. Not that they don't have the funding or that the talent isn't there. They're just they're still a kind of a startup in some way, in a lot of ways. And I'm going to read a tweet that Adam Copeland put out earlier today, and I want to get your take, and of course I have some comments on it. He said that I don't buy into this odd mentality of one company or the other. It's weird. If you took offense to that, then take a walk. Get some fresh air and soak up some sunshine. It's wrestling, an amazing gig, but still, it's wrestling. Relax. It's supposed to be fun, and it's just a segment of the fans, not most fans, and definitely not the performers. Within the industry, we all know that more choices are better for everyone and pushes us all to be better. As a wrestling fan, which I still am, it's exciting that there's viable companies providing wrestling on a national and worldwide platform. If you're actually a fan of wrestling and not acronyms, that should make you happy too. He said, and then he went on to conclude, I guess what I'm trying to say is if you've appreciated my work, you still can, no matter what the initials are, because I'll be still busting my ass every time I'm out there. This ride isn't over just yet, just trying to have fun, look like it should be, because trust me, I'll be having fun every time I'm out there in an AEW ring. So, I mean, he's kind of slamming fans that have been saying, hey, you are angry that I'm not with WWE, that I'm with AEW, but it's about having fun and about having more guys to have more work. And I'll just say this, and I'll toss it to you for your comments about what he said. I understand the mentality that there's fans that just go, oh, well, AEW is the best or WWE is the best. I don't like the other promotion. And there's people out there that are brand specific. In other words, brand loyalty, a concept that has existed forever in sports and in business forever. And I understand that. So I actually kind of disagree with Adam here where, I understand that it's better for everyone to have work. At the same time, does he not understand the concept of brand loyalty that fans have? This exists in the NFL, it exists in the MLB, it exists in the NHL, it exists wherever. In other words, if somebody leaves your team and goes to an opposing rival team, you don't think they're going to get booed when they come into that building? Of course they are, because you're loyal to the brand of your team. And I don't think he understands that. So I'll pause and let you respond.
I do understand, pardon me, the whole, if there's more places to work, it's better for the industry. I get that. And for the talent and for a lot of these guys, like let's say the Hardy Boys or Christian or even maybe not so much Daniel Bryan and Jon Moxley, but there's a lot of guys who would be out of work right now in terms of mainstream wrestling had it not been for AEW. So on a real life basis, I get it. But I think what Edge or Adam Copeland is trying to do with this post is kind of like defend himself to WWE loyalists. And he doesn't owe us an explanation. Like I said, he's lost so much time due to extenuating circumstances that he could do whatever he wants. But at the end of the day, what Adam Copeland chose to do was for himself. And that's cool. That's fine. He's earned that right. But he has to accept the fact, and I think with what he's trying to do with that post is not accept the fact that he probably pissed off most of his fans. And that's just the fact of the matter. Like, he is Edge. He's been Edge for 25 years, and he's no longer Edge anymore. He's rated R superstar Adam Copeland. And like you said, there's a brand loyalty. Now, there are some fans that could watch AEW and WWE and enjoy both, but I think there's a large majority that are accustomed to WWE's presentation of wrestling and that find it difficult to watch AEW. And I'll be honest, like, I gave AEW a chance, and when Dynamite started back in 2019, right around the time, coincidentally, that you and I started working together, WWE's creative was in the absolute gutter. Like 2019, kind of right before the pandemic, like that was not a good time creatively for WWE. It kind of started picking up a bit right before the pandemic, if we're being honest, when Edge returned and Drew won the Royal Rumble. But it was a good opportunity for AEW to come in, but I didn't gravitate to it. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that it's bad. I just don't like the presentation. I don't like that style of wrestling. I really don't like the 100-mile-an-hour type of style and the very indie style. I find their storytelling pales in comparison to WWE, but that's just my cup of tea. But a lot of fans who fell in love with Edge are also in love with that presentation in WWE. And now we're not going to see Edge anymore. We're going to see this new version of Edge. So I think what he has to realize here is like, no, it's not one company against the other. But to your point, it's just that some people aren't going to watch you in WWE. I mean, in AEW that we're watching you in WWE. Just like I liked Dean Ambrose, but I don't watch Jon Moxley. Just like I like Daniel Bryan, but I don't like Bryan Danielson. But I think the difference is that maybe it's because I thought that those guys kind of ran out their racetracks in WWE. And you can make the case that Edge did too. But I still feel like because of all that time we lost with Edge in the early to mid 2010s and even late 2010s, pretty much all the 2010s if we're being real, like I was just like, like I wanted to see you end your career as Edge in WWE. We were robbed of so much of your prime that like you almost felt entitled, or I felt entitled to see the end of his career right on through. So, I mean, I understand it and I respect it that he has the right to finish his in-ring career any way he wanted, especially after going through all the injuries. But he just has to accept the fact that he made a very selfish decision, even if that selfish decision was one that is completely understandable.
That's the conundrum that we have is if we were put in Edge's position where, hey, WWE isn't going to give us what we want, and we don't know what those demands were. We can only speculate. We don't know if they were unreasonable. We don't know what WWE was offering him, and we don't know any of that. But the fact is that he didn't feel like he was being valued, or they didn't, I don't know, meet on money or creative or both, and that they weren't going to be able to come to terms. And if Adam Copeland, if Edge feels like, hey, I've got still more to contribute, I'm still in great shape, the clock is ticking, I'm an old dude now, but I can still perform at a high level, I can't go in WWE, then let me go to the next best thing where I can get paid at a similar rate. And I think that most of us would have chosen what Adam did. I mean, I might have as well, but I also, this is where the flip comes in. I also would have recognized, well, you know what, there's probably going to be people in WWE that are not happy with this from a fan perspective, that are going to give me crap for this from going to a quote unquote rival company. And I don't know how he feels that he didn't see this coming. Like, he's responding as if he's shocked that anybody from WWE's perspective of fans, the fan base, felt a little betrayed. I know that he feels that he's not betraying them. He's doing what he knows is right for himself. And I totally get that. I'm not faulting him for this. In fact, I actually might have done the same thing in his shoes. I think many of us would. Just because you're in WWE doesn't mean that if they're not going to hire you, you're not going to want to take a similar paycheck in another company. I totally get it. But what I don't get is his just complete misunderstanding or just surprise that fans are acting this way. Some fans are acting this way because they feel like you betrayed them a bit. At the same time, it may not be Edge's fault that he did this. Again, it probably is WWE's side as well. The money and cash and creative are always at the heart of a lot of issues, and I don't fault Adam for this. I hope he does well. I'm going to see clips of him from time to time. It's not that I have any ill will towards AEW or that fans don't want. See, here's the thing. Fans, when they look at this, don't go, wow, well, I hope there's a lot of places for guys to work. That's kind of like that's not the fans' priority. That's not the main priority of fans. Fans fund these events because we go to them and watch them. They wouldn't exist without us, by the way. but that's not our main priority. It's a nice thing to say. It's a nice thing to believe, and it's a nice thing to advocate for. But as fans, we just want to watch wrestling. We just want, and so we don't look at this and go, oh, well, we should care about where if guys and gals can find a place to work. That's not our concern. Not to sound like an a-hole, but it's not, and if we have brand loyalty, guess what? That's it. That's something that has existed for like hundreds of years. And it shouldn't be a shock when he goes there and he's like, oh, wait, what? You guys are mad? And he lists all these reasons why we shouldn't be. So I think that's kind of like the flip of this.
And it's also the optics of how AEW has just kind of become this place. And not to say that they have no homegrown talent, but it's quickly become this place for a lot of over-the-hill wrestlers to go and just have fun with their friends and fantasy book. And let's be honest, like, he clearly wanted to go work with Christian, which was fine, which he could do in AEW. He clearly wanted a bigger role in terms of creative and storytelling, which I'm sure he's going to have. And I guarantee that he will probably get a championship run, which he didn't have in WWE. So I understand all that, but the optics is just kind of just like, so is this just what AEW is going to become now? Where Sting wants to prolong his career and Christian wants to prolong his career and the Hardys and Daniel Bryan and like, who's the other one? Sting, or I think I already said him, but I'm just like Jericho. There's the perfect example where I'm just like, it's just weird to me at this point. And Edge just felt like he was above that. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't have to go there to prolong your career. And maybe he wanted to be world champion or whatever. And that's another part about this where it's just like, well, dude, like, aside from the premature ending of the Judgment Day, did WWE misuse Edge in any way? Like, unless he wanted to work weekly shows on Raw or SmackDown, like, for you, did they misuse him in any way creatively aside from perhaps prematurely ending the Judgment Day?
That is a massive blunder. Like you just said, outside of the fact that his heel run was cut insanely short, and I was very sad to see it not being fully told to us. The full story of a heel Edge was a lot of fun, and I was on board completely. Outside of that, no, I think that they used him very smartly. He had victories when he needed them. He also gave back to the industry when he needed to, taking clean pinfalls. I had no issues with him. He main evented WrestleMania, for God's sakes, with Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns in a triple threat a few years ago. I mean, that's difficult to make a case that they misused him when he was in a main event of WrestleMania just a few years ago. And, at the same time, we don't know what was going on backstage of, hey, maybe he wanted more matches, but they wouldn't let him. We don't know those things, but all we can do is judge on what we've seen. And the answer is no.
Yeah. So what was he looking to do? And I do think that maybe this want to go somewhere else started because of the premature ending of the Judgment Day, by all accounts, that he didn't like the direction the group was being taken. But I guess we'll have to see where this all goes. I guess we'll have to see just how, far and how much he's elevated in AEW. I guess we'll have to see if he does, in fact, end his career in AEW, which would be just incredibly disappointing. But I mean, again, like, I understand it from, Adam Copeland's perspective, but he has to understand that from WWE fans' perspective, he more or less killed the character Edge. And, like, let's be honest here, like, could you imagine if his ending, like, the lasting image of Edge will have is at a SmackDown against Sheamus in, like, August? Like, and that's no slight on Sheamus or the fact that it was in Toronto, but, like, isn't that kind of a slap in the face if that's the last time we see him in WWE?
When it happened, I remember saying, there's no way this is it. This can't be it. You're telling me Edge would want to write this ending to his story if he could redo it from Alberto Del Rio World Heavyweight Championship in WrestleMania 27, whatever it was, and he gets injured, and this is how he would end it? I highly doubt it. No.
It's so weird.
I mean, it's weird, and it does make me think a little bit differently of Edge. At the same time, just to kind of wrap it up and we'll move on to LA Knight because I'm very curious about your thoughts on that, is the fact that I would still want to see him in a main event, one of the main events, as they like to put it, of WrestleMania, and have him face John Cena and then end it there. Of course, it's not up to me. It's up to the powers that be. I mean, of course, he's now contracted with AEW, and even if WWE wanted him, that's how I would end it. The only other good thing that came from this and does come from it is that WWE may have, we'll never know, but they may have some regret backstage of like, oh man, now they've got him under contract. I wish we had kind of maybe come to terms and done this or that. And what that does is kind of put a little bit of fear, into WWE of like, hey, the guys, big names are now moving over to AEW. We have to kind of be weary of that and realize that this isn't the only game in town now, and that they are a serious threat when it comes to being able to pay guys at the rate we're going to pay them. They've got deep pockets. So it does allow for maybe talent to have a little bit more leverage, than they otherwise would have in WWE if AEW didn't exist, which means some stars may be able to stay in WWE that otherwise would have not stayed. So just another positive to point out there.
Yeah, it is a positive. But the one thing that we have to remember here is that we have yet to see like an in their prime guy. I guess with the exception of Dean Ambrose. With the exception of Dean Ambrose, like what in their prime wrestler has made the jump? Like Daniel Bryan, he's over the hill. Edge over the hill. Jericho over the hill. Like it always seems Samoa Joe over the hill. It's always guys who want to do more creatively because they're over the hill and maybe WWE has just kind of run its course with them, or guys who have been released recently. And like the other part about this is that everyone, myself, and I'm sure yourself included, has criticized WWE for relying too much on the stars of yesteryear. Is this not exactly what AEW is doing with WWE's stars of yesteryear right now?
They're doing the same exact thing. But in their case, I think it's a little bit different in their defense because they need attention. They need names. They need eyeballs on their product. This is not a sustainable solution. They know that. In fact, they're kind of criticizing the very thing that the way they're building right now, they're criticizing WWE for, and now they're doing it. But theirs is different because WWE will have a foundational base of fans no matter what the hell happens. AEW is a little more fragile again in that they're still relatively new. And even though they're bringing in old stars and they're past their prime, it still has name brand value when you bring in a Jericho, you bring in a Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson, you bring in Dean Ambrose or Jon Moxley, you bring in Samoa Joe, you bring in Ruby Riott, and the list goes on. That is a little bit more of a need for them, even if it's not sustainable, because they just need to get that interest going in their product rather than WWE, who obviously needs to, continue to get younger and all that kind of thing. So I think it's a little different for AEW.
Yeah, no, for sure. I guess it's just, I just find it's a weird look for AEW. That's all it is for me. It just feels like, aside from MJF, who has been their homegrown talent, like I guess you have like Orange Cassidy, and I really don't watch AEW. It's just, I found the direction they've gone from the beginning just kind of bizarre. It kind of just looks like a publicized indie show, which, I mean, again, if that's your cup of tea, and now that's fine, but now you're using WWE's X-star power and guys who were popular and in their prime maybe a decade plus ago. I don't know. It's all kind of been, it feels like they're pulling in two directions at once. But I guess if you're a wrestler who is in the twilight of your career, it is enticing to go somewhere where there is so much creative freedom.
Absolutely. I totally understand. It's easy to sit here and, as fans and say, oh, what are you doing? But man, when those millions are wrote in a contract and you have creative freedom that you've never had before, I mean, I'm not faulting anyone for going there. I don't feel slighted. I don't feel offended. I don't feel like someone's betrayed me. I understand the rule of the jungle here, and it's cash is king. I understand that, you go to a place that's less stressful to go to, even though the idea of the inmates running the asylum is not a good long-term sustainable strategy. We saw that in WCW. That ended up one of the biggest factors that ended up tanking WCW was the political games and who you knew meant what part of the card you're going to be on and all that kind of thing, which really hurt the business, which can and probably will eventually hurt AEW. I don't think it'll take them down, but you'd imagine they learn from the mistakes of the past and not play those political games. But those are the kinds of things I understand as a talent. Hey, if you got more than one place to go and there's more than one place other than Titan Towers to go, hey, that is a very tempting offer that I absolutely don't fault any wrestler for going there. And I want to make that point too.
Yeah, I don't fault them, but I guess for me, it wasn't so much that Edge's decision to go there. I think his social media post was what just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Because it was like he was telling people the way that they're feeling was wrong.
Yeah.
And to me, it's just like, dude, like you consciously made a very unpopular decision. And now you're telling people that they have like no right to feel maybe not betrayed, but just very disappointed. And like you said, like now we can't even think of him at WrestleMania. And let's be honest, has he not said countless times recently that there's not much time left for him? Like, so I wouldn't be surprised if we never see Edge back in WWE at this point. He's already in the Hall of Fame, so it's not like he's going to return one day to do the Hall of Fame. He's already done his big return. So, I mean, we very well could have seen the last of Edge wrestling on a SmackDown against Sheamus. And to me, and again, he doesn't owe us anything, and I get it. And I'm sure for him, he's just like, you know what? I lost so many years in my prime that I'm just going to do whatever I want and leave it all out there, which I respect. And again, I'm not blaming him for, but what I am kind of blaming him for is just like, you can't fault people for being upset that that's how we're going to be left with the Edge character, because the Edge character is gone. Rated R superstar Adam Copeland is going to do whatever he's going to do in AEW, but the Edge character as we know it there's a very good possibility that we're never going to see him again. And the last time we would have seen him was and I don't care that it was in Toronto, because aside if you were there, it really didn't matter. But for the vast majority, 95% of fans, the last time that we're going to have seen Edge was wrestling Sheamus on SmackDown in August. And to me, I think every fan, myself included, has a right to be upset with that.
That's probably a more concise way to put this. You're right that his not understanding or telling us how we should feel, or that we need more sunshine or to get fresh air or whatever. Like, no, I mean, don't tell me how I should feel, because that'll just double down on how I don't feel. So like that's the part. And he wasn't nasty about it, but I know what he's saying in a professional manner. Yeah, he's patronizing, but he did it in a way that he could sell it like I wasn't. I was just trying to say that it's better for everyone if they have more places to work. It's like, well, that's not our concern, bro. Like that's I'm sorry. Like it's wonderful, but it's not a concern of ours as a fan. It's not our primary concern. Sorry, we are loyal to your character. We would like you to stay in WWE. You should finish out your career in WWE. We're not telling you should, but at the same time, you can't fault us if you go to another brand and then we're upset. Like that's the part that he is just shocked by, or feels that he's being, attacked by fans after staying in WWE for 25 years. All of a sudden, those same fans are going, why are you going to AEW? He's shocked by it. Well, what do you mean? It's another place to work. You can go watch me there. And that's the part that as being, as a wrestler, he's not seeing the fans' perspective. I know he says he's a fan, but you can say that all you want. It's not the same as being a true, pure fan, only watching, not participating. So any wrap-up thoughts? Because I want to move on to LA Knight for sure.
No, I think we all kind of let it all out there, and we're going to move on to a guy that probably made Edge expendable in some way.
And so now we have LA Knight. He has officially entered into the Bloodlines story, and he was replaced AJ Styles, who was quote unquote hospitalized, by Solo Sikoa on the Bloodline last week. And LA Knight came to the aid of John Cena as he was about to be put through a table by Solo on SmackDown. Massive pop for Knight. and he signed the contract, so it's official. LA Knight and John Cena versus Solo and Jimmy. No Roman yet, but that's coming. And so obviously the biggest moment of his career, getting involved with the biggest group in the last how long, 10 years more, and officially putting himself into the universe now of Roman Reigns. So what did you think of that? Are you surprised that they did this so quickly with LA Knight and John Cena against the Bloodline?
Well, I think they're laying the groundwork for Roman Reigns' competitors right up until Royal Rumble. And, you know, we kind of talked about like how the path for Roman Reigns would be between now and WrestleMania. And now, I mean, over the last 2 SmackDowns or the last 3 SmackDowns, however long it's been since The Rock showed up, we've kind of been able to piece together, or at least myself, a path for Roman Reigns all the way to WrestleMania. You're probably going to see AJ Styles against Roman Reigns at the Crown Jewel pay-per-view. And then depending on what they do with Survivor Series, I mean, you could see LA Knight versus Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble. I think Survivor Series being a traditional multi-man gimmicky type of pay-per-view, maybe you see some combination of Cena and the OC and LA Knight against the Bloodline plus. I don't know how they're going to go down this road. But all in all, I do think it's more or less fair to say that what they've done with LA Knight here is position him for a title match between now and the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, that's definitely what they've done, and it seems like and if I was to guess the reason why it's done so really more faster than I thought, it's because they probably have The Rock and Roman Reigns lined up for WrestleMania, and if you want to get LA Knight in, you got to do it now. You can't wait till after WrestleMania. You're certainly not going to put him in the match with Rock and Roman. So that, to me, is why this feels a little bit sped up. I mean, he hasn't even chased the U.S. title. He's kind of been in and out of that. And all of a sudden, he seems to have leapfrogged the U.S. title. That's been put on the back burner. And now he's going right for the throat here. He's going for the Bloodline. And you're probably right with the timing of things with LA Knight and AJ Styles, who will probably be his opponent at the Crown Jewel event. And then it could be Roman and LA Knight at the Survivor Series event. But like you said, it's a traditional. If they're going to do the whole War Games match again, I mean, that's the Bloodline is a perfect fit for that match. And, you know, that makes sense to me. But yeah, if you're going to do it, to me now, the latest you can do LA Knight and Roman Reigns is at the Royal Rumble, which then would make you wonder, well, if LA Knight's facing Roman Reigns at the Rumble, he's probably not going to be in the Rumble. And like, it gets messy. So then who wins the Rumble? I know we're getting a few pay-per-views ahead here, but, you know, the LA Knight story, ultimately, I don't think will end with a title victory here. I mean, I'll pose that question to you. I mean, with your plan laid out here, whether it's at Survivor Series or I don't think there's a PLE in December, or at the Rumble, do you think LA Knight, when this match happens, has any chance of winning? I mean, I think there's some chance. I don't think this is a total gimme like a lot of them have been over the last 3 years. But with The Rock looming at WrestleMania, how do you feel about LA Knight's chances of winning when he does face Roman?
When he faces Roman, probably close to none, unfortunately, even though I've said in the past that I think he should win and then Rock versus Roman for no title, but we all know that's not going to happen. But one question I would have is there a pay-per-view between Survivor Series and Royal Rumble this year? Because last year I know there wasn't, but the year before they had the day one. So
yeah, I don't think so.
So maybe they have LA Knight face Roman Reigns sometime between Crown Jewel and Royal Rumble, like not at a pay-per-view. Maybe they do it at Survivor Series. Maybe they do it at Crown Jewel and they just skip past AJ Styles. Like, I don't know exactly when, but you could be damn sure that he will be getting a title opportunity in some capacity. Now, if he faces Roman Reigns before the Royal Rumble, maybe that could set him up to win the Royal Rumble and transfer over to Monday Night Raw to challenge for the World Heavyweight Championship. So maybe this won't result in him winning the Undisputed title, but could you see him maybe winning the Rumble and challenging for the World Heavyweight?
So in your scenario, you're saying the match with Roman happens before the Rumble. They get that out of the way. He loses. And then he wins the Rumble, but decides to choose the World Heavyweight Champion over Roman Reigns. I don't hate that, only if it's not Seth Rollins facing him, unless Seth Rollins is heel. See, LA Knight needs someone that's a heel to face him when he has a title change. It can't be like if Rey Mysterio is still U.S. champion, you don't want LA Knight beating Rey Mysterio for the belt. It's kind of a weird feel there. It's not maximizing things for LA Knight. It gets a little wonky with fans' loyalty and all that. And then you go over to Seth Rollins. If it's LA Knight, Seth Rollins, not loving that either because of the fan reaction. I don't think the match would be bad. It's just fan reaction, and story-wise, it gets a little weird. But if it's a heel over there who wins, say it's Shinsuke Nakamura, which unlikely, but if it was something along those lines, what's that?
For me, it would be a heel Drew McIntyre versus LA Knight at WrestleMania.
There you go. Yeah, sign me up. And we could even get into Drew's heel turn at one point, because what's happening right now, Drew's heel turn is happening as we speak. So it's happening kind of strangely. I don't agree with the logic of it. I broke it down on my Recon review and my Raw review. It's very strange, but I don't necessarily have a bone to pick as long as the destination is still Drew as a heel. And it seems like they're going that way because Drew could open up a world of possibilities when it comes to him turning heel with Seth and Cody. And obviously if he becomes champion, then you open yourself up to LA Knight. I really like that. So your plan would be for LA Knight would be a heel Drew as a champion, as world champion, versus LA Knight at WrestleMania in one of the main events.
Yeah, I think that would be, in WWE's world, a case of having your cake and eating it too. You please everyone with LA Knight winning a World Heavyweight Championship, or at least, presumably winning a World Championship at WrestleMania. And you get to have The Rock versus Roman with the Undisputed Championship on the line. And in the meantime, you could push LA Knight to the main event, have him lose, have people get even more behind him as he's facing all that adversity, and then build him back up until the Rumble, win the Royal Rumble, go over to Monday Night Raw, face off against a Drew McIntyre who presumably will be super over as a heel at that point. I think it's going to be a great run for Drew as a heel. Presumably he's going to end up with the World Heavyweight Championship. I think he's the one who should dethrone Seth Rollins. Maybe at Survivor Series. The whole crux of this timeline is Survivor Series. What are they going to do? Because how long has it been since we've seen a world title on the line at Survivor Series? Because theoretically, LA Knight versus Roman should happen at Survivor Series, and Seth versus Drew should happen at Survivor Series.
I would scrap the whole gimmick need for Survivor Series. I have no problem with the traditional 5-on-5 men's and or women's matches, elimination, not war games, just the traditional 5-on-5 for elimination. If they want to do that with some kind of stipulation on the line, not just a novelty matchup, then fine. I don't mind that being the case. And I loved that actually when it came around. I used to love those tag team elimination matches. And there usually was something on the line, but I would forego all the gimmick crap when it comes to war games, which there's a whole bunch about that match that makes no sense to me, which I won't get into. But then even worse before that was the Raw versus SmackDown imaginary brand feud that really meant nothing. There's no consequences. We've talked about that many times. When SmackDown got completely swept by Raw, there was zero consequences. So it completely undercut all of the story and narrative that, we need to care about brand supremacy, when it was absolutely ridiculous that we dealt with for so many years. So I would forego all that crap and just continue with your storylines. It's a hell of an important time of year. Why are you going to handicap it with making gimmicks a priority of Survivor Series instead of letting it stand on its own 2 feet, letting the programs that are going on continue to go on and not hold everything up with this gimmick exhibition stuff? I remember Roman Reigns and Randy Orton one year, all these things that just happen and nothing matters. And enough of that. It needs to be something that actually is consequential, that is forwarding the storylines. and not just, oh, it's Survivor Series time to put the gimmicks up. I'm done with that. I don't know if they're going to do that this year. They probably will go back to War Games. They probably felt like that was a success, but my vote would be a hard pass on all of all that gimmick stuff.
Because then you could have 2 World Championship matches, Drew versus Seth, LA Knight versus Roman, 2 very high profile level matches, and then have 1 5-on-5 for the men, 1 5-on-5 for the women. And the men on the heel side, you could probably have the Bloodline with Solo and Jimmy, and the 3 members of the Judgment Day against whatever, Jay, Sammy, Kevin, Cody, and AJ Styles. Something like that. Like, I think that would be a pretty good compromise for everyone involved. Like, would you not rather see that than what we saw last year or the year before that with no championship on the line?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, give me that match any day of the week. As long as there's some kind of stipulation on the line and it's not just, pride. Because with that, those names and all the platform of Survivor Series, what that means, yeah, bring that on. I think that they feel it needs a gimmick, and I feel like they're going to go back to War Games. But I have no issue with that whatsoever, and that would be an interesting dynamic. And yes, the answer is yes.
And you could make something like you all get a chance at like a mid-card championship. Like, I don't know, like Cody would probably just be like, "Oh, I just did out of the goodness of my heart," but let's not go on another Cody rant this week.
Please.
But I just think that there's so many, especially without that pay-per-view between Survivor Series and Rumble, you cannot waste Survivor Series on just exhibition matches. You have too much at stake heading into Royal Rumble and WrestleMania season for them to just waste these championships, or these champions rather, in exhibition type of contest. And if not, then I don't know where else that you could dethrone one of these guys. Like, I guess Seth could face Drew at Crown Jewel, which is kind of scary to think about. But I mean, if it's not Survivor Series, like, there's no way that Seth holds this title right up until Royal Rumble, right? Like, I'm all for long title reigns, but it feels like we're starting to come towards the end of the Seth World Heavyweight Championship run.
Yes, I feel like we're getting close to the end for Seth, and I'm cool with that. He's had a fun run. Every run now doesn't need to be measured against Roman Reigns' run, which unfortunately a lot of us do now because his reign is just insanely long. And it's at this point, it's a complete joke that he's not there anymore, barring actual injury. Which I don't know. I haven't heard any reports lately that he's actually still injured. But barring that, this is getting absurd because when we think about it, when you pointed out the fact that there is no, you reminded me that there is no December PLE. That means the last one that we have is Survivor Series till Rumble, which is about 2 months. There you go, automatically adding 2 months to Roman Reigns' title run without him lifting a finger. Probably won't appear on SmackDown more than like twice. So there you go already. Just inflating his run by 2 months. At this point, I'm sorry, we have damaged. WWE has damaged his run by having so many large gaps in time between his defenses or even appearances at this point.
Do you remember when they would say you had to defend your title within 30 days of holding it?
Oh, yeah. They said that's, quote, in the WWE rule book. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And if we go... Okay, so let's go Rumble to Rumble here. Let's assume that he defends the title at Crown Jewel and he doesn't at Survivor Series, because as we just outlined, when is the last time the WWE Championship was defended at Survivor Series? And now thinking back on it, I think it was Brock against Rey Mysterio at Survivor Series 2019. If I'm not mistaken, that's the last time that a world championship was defended at Survivor Series. So that's 4 years. So assuming that we're only going to have one title defense at Crown Jewel, another title defense at Rumble, that means from Rumble to Rumble, a full calendar year in regards, like as far as pay-per-views are concerned, he will have defended it against Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso, whoever he did against at whoever he will at Crown Jewel, and whoever he will at the Royal Rumble. Unless my math is mistaking me, I think that is 6 defenses. 6 world title defenses in a calendar year. That to me is absolutely absurd. Once every 2 months, he's defending the championship. I don't know. For me, that doesn't work for me. Honestly, like that just completely dilutes what he's done, especially when you consider the fact that half of those defenses will have come in the first 4 months of the year, because he defended it at Rumble, defended it at Chamber, and defended it at WrestleMania. So after April 2nd, he will have defended it from April to late January, when the Rumble presumably is. He will have defended it 3 times. That's what, 9 months or 10 months even more so, where you defended it 3 times? I don't know how anyone could defend how much he's gone with just fabricating this run at this point.
That's when you said every other month, I'm thinking, well, yeah, that's bad, but it doesn't sound as bad. But the clarification there is, well, they were kind of front loaded. A lot of those defenses were done in the first few months, and now, like you said, it has just been egregious at this point. It feels it's about every 4 months now. Every 3 to 4 months, he shows up and defends it. And the thing is, like, I'm not slamming Roman for this. I'm not slamming him at all. Hell, he's got it made in the shade, man. He has got everything that you could want, being paid a boatload, not killing your body, spending time with family, and at the same time on a historic run. But that historic run is being eaten away with this cancer called time, and large gaps of time of you absent. And I know, and I mentioned this last week, but it's worth bringing up again. I know the argument is, well, when he's on, don't you pay attention? Or isn't it more special when he's there? All this, that, and I argued that too for a while, for the first couple of years. Now that's out the window. Like, it does reach a point of recession, or what's that? There's a term for it, diminishing returns.
Yeah,
that we're there. Like, we're way past the whole argument of when he's there, it's more special and ratings are higher and don't you pay attention, and he draws all that gone. Like that's no longer a thing. He's completely abused that, or creative has, or whoever's collaborating his schedule. That's all gone, because now you are actually hurting the reign of Roman. No one's talking about his championship. No one cares about it. It's all intra-family. He hasn't defended against someone outside his family in how many freaking months? And sure, it's going to be against LA Knight or AJ Styles, or maybe even a floating Randy Orton out there. Who knows? And that'll be the first time since WrestleMania that he's faced anyone outside the bloodline. So it's been quite a damn while, and it's embarrassing. And they keep talking about his championship run, and Paul Heyman keeps him alive by talking about him on SmackDown, but he hasn't shown up in 2 months. And it's so glaringly obvious at this point that it's embarrassing, and it's hurting his run. They can stack up as many days as they want, but the number of title defenses and the appearances are now, to me, really putting a stain on his run.
I don't see how anyone could say the opposite at this point. Like, since WrestleMania, how long was WrestleMania now? Are we 6 months post-Mania at this point? I believe we are.
Oh, yeah, we're past now. Yep.
So in 6 months, he's defended it once. Put it that way. The last time he aside from SummerSlam, he has not defended the Undisputed Championship since WrestleMania.
Is that right? It can't be right. That can't be right.
Well, think about it. I think he's had 3 matches since then, 2 of which were tag team matches. He challenged for the Undisputed Tag Team Championships at what was it? It was in Saudi Arabia, but was the pay-per-view was it Extreme? It wasn't Extreme Rules. What pay-per-view did they do in Saudi Arabia in May when the Usos turned on him?
Oh, what? I was thinking not Crown Jewel. I always think it's Crown Jewel. It's not.
Crown Jewel's
Night
the
of
one coming up.
Champions or
Yes, that's exactly it. It was Night of Champions. So he challenged for the Undisputed Tag Team Championships with Solo against Sammy and Kevin the night that the Usos turned on him. And then he tagged with Solo in the Civil War match at Money in the Bank. So he's had 3 matches since WrestleMania, 2 of which were tag team matches. So he's defended the Undisputed Championship once since his match with Cody Rhodes against Jey Uso. He's had 1 singles match in 6 months.
And
I don't know how anyone can defend this. I'm not saying that there isn't a certain aspect of him showing up here and there that makes it feel more important. Hell, I always thought that Brock Lesnar did feel way more important because he came here and there. But at this point, he's making Brock look like an everyday guy who's working house shows. Like 1 title defense in 6 months? I don't know. That's completely absurd to me.
It's insulting to the fans' intelligence. It's got to be frustrating as hell if you're a talent on the SmackDown side of things, knowing that you can't talk about the Undisputed title because it's not anything that's ever, that's if it's not in WWE's crosshairs or not in Roman's schedule, you can't talk about it. They have a very few appearances for him, so it's just everyone has to pretend it doesn't exist. I would be so frustrated. We're told it's the most important title, yet it's not there, and no one talks about it. It's invisible until Roman shows up, which is just ridiculous. And again, I'm not directing this frustration at Roman. This is just the schedule he was dealt, and congrats, man. You reached a point in your career. You don't have to kill yourself and go full time. That's what everyone strives for. Good for you. I'm not jealous of that. I applaud him. It's just as a fan watching, you can't continue this. I mean, it's really to the point where there's got to be a breaking point here. It's laughable, but it's also super frustrating and embarrassing and insulting to fans' intelligence. And I don't know what the solution is if Roman doesn't want to work any more dates. I don't know what it is. He shows up around WrestleMania season and then floats around till SummerSlam, here and there, and then disappears as he has the last couple of months, and then he'll show back up because it's getting close to WrestleMania season again. And he's like on the Undertaker's Plus schedule. It's like I don't know. It's frustrating because this title should not be just about Roman. It should be about helping build new stars. Even if that star doesn't actually win the belt, it still helps out that new star getting the rub from Roman in the main event. Roman's an excellent in-ring wrestler at this point, and it helps out new stars to be in the ring, to at least claim they've had a title opportunity. But nobody can do that if you're not there, bro. Like I don't know how much more to say about it.
Well, it sucks because it takes away from what has otherwise been a very memorable and historic run for Roman Reigns.
Oh yeah.
But the more that they lean into this part-time gimmick, for lack of better words, that he has, the more that it takes away. And I mean, with each passing year, it feels like, the way that he was part-time last year was acceptable. Where, I felt like he would show up at least once a month. But since WrestleMania this year, it has gotten to, like you said, an insulting level.
Yeah, that's the point. For me, I'm at the breaking point where I'm actually looking at this title reign and see the days and the weeks and the months go by, and oh my God, he's got this many days. Oh wow, he's at 1,100 days. Oh my God, isn't this the most historic thing? And I'm sitting there going, no, like this is a complete manufacturing of days as champion. Because you're absent so damn much. So yeah, this is it's really affecting not just fans' frustration, but actual lives of the talent in real life. It's affecting their careers because they don't have a championship to compete for. They can't reach that next level because the guy that you need to be there to reach that next level isn't there. It's absolutely all the way around, from real life and messing with people's lives to just the superficial fan frustration. It's everything in between. It's reached that point. And it's something's got to change, and I don't know what that is picking the belt off him. Rock isn't going to do it, but maybe it is LA Knight. I mean, who knows? All right. Well, I'll stop there. Any concluding thoughts? Anything that you wanted to mention?
The only thing I wanted to mention, and it's completely off topic, but if you go on WWE's website and you click on Superstars, Mr. McMahon and Stephanie McMahon are both listed on Raw and SmackDown's rosters. It's bizarre.
Well, they do keep up on that because Edge, over the last week, disappeared from the active roster list, which means they kind of knew they were done with Edge, and it was a clue that he was moving on, and he did. So the fact that they're there, I don't know if they were recently put there or if it's just you happen to notice now, but that is something to keep in the back of our minds. So,
yeah, I don't know, because Stephanie McMahon isn't part of WWE in any capacity, is she?
No, not that I know of. And of course, with the whole Triple H and Stephanie split that's happening right now, no.
Is that confirmed as a thing?
It seems to be pretty confirmed. They're not divorced, but it appears like they're separated. Things are not going well in the personal lives of either from that perspective. So, yeah.
I wonder if that has any impact on the future of the business.
That's a whole other topic. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what has happened in WWE over the last year and a half between the potential, they're going to sell to Disney, they're going to do that, people are getting cut, mass cuts, top talent got cut, and then Nick Khan comes in and he cleans house, and all these things that have happened, and they finally sell to Endeavor, Vince McMahon sex scandal, all these things. Like, I can't imagine what it has been like backstage with the meetings and the chaos. But yet on the outward side of things, publicly, they're trying to make it look like all is well. It has got to be entertaining as hell backstage with all these things going on over the last 18, 24 months.
Have you even heard about this stuff about Vince McMahon selling his stock or preparing to sell his stock, and it's like a way for Endeavor to move on from him if this scandal stuff has to push him out. It feels like Endeavor has laid a groundwork for if they need to get rid of Vince McMahon, everything is already in place to do so.
Yeah, I've heard rumors of that, and I mean, Vince would have to agree to sell his stock. I mean, nobody can force you to. It would have to be a mutual agreement by both parties, but yeah, I'm sure that they do have some kind of fail-safe in place. At the same time, Vince is very business savvy, even at his advanced age. And I would imagine he has his own kind of ace in the hole if somebody tries to oust him completely. And I don't know. That to me, Vince will never, ever, ever, ever be out of the creative side of things until he's dead. That's just a fact. I don't care. I mean, it's just true. Vince doesn't know anything else in life. That is his life. And I get it. So, yeah. All right. Well, I think we'll end it there. And guys, don't forget, Anthony DeMarco does the After Dark show only on the Patreon side of things on the SmackDown tier and higher. And this past week, you covered the forecasting to WrestleMania, right?
Yeah, I kind of talked about a lot of things that we spoke about for the last half an hour or so, trying to lay the groundwork into what some WrestleMania matches could be. I think I even did suggest Edge versus John Cena, so you could scrap that. So, I mean, I don't know. I think I mentioned maybe John Cena versus Cody Rhodes, brought up LA Knight versus Drew McIntyre. On the women's side of things, I think I had Rhea Ripley against Bianca Belair. And then I thought on the Raw side, or on the SmackDown side of things, that was more the Raw side, but on the SmackDown side of things, it was a triple threat match between all three members of Damage Control, which kind of pales in comparison to Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair. But that's all that I could really come up with for the WWE Women's Championship on the SmackDown scene, because it just really feels flat right now.
Yeah, it does. I mean, when Jade Cargill comes in, they're making a big deal about her. I don't know what roster she's going to land on, but we all know what WWE's draft rules are like. They don't exist, so they can kind of do whatever they want. I mean, really, that's the beauty of their complete and lack of discipline to their own rules, is they can kind of do things when they want, and make up rules here and there, and apply them when it's convenient and all that. But yeah, very good. I really, guys, encourage you to go listen to the show, which is available only on Patreon again. And don't forget, it is an adult-only show, so there may be a few 4-letter words here and there, but still a lot of fun. And keep the kids away. Okay, that is an After Dark is named After Dark for a reason. So go check that out on the Patreon side of things, and I guess we'll wrap it up here, man. And it's been a lot of fun.
Thanks for listening to the WWE podcast.
So I'm sure
don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show. Or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.